Hello, I'm Peter Whittle. Now, you'll know if you're a viewer of the channel that we often highlight issues of censorship, whether they be in the arts or whether they be in education. But there's one recent example happening at the moment which has actually rather gone under the radar, and it concerns the magazine, The European Conservative. I'm very pleased to be joined by Harrison Pitt, who is one of their writers. Thanks very much for coming, Harrison.
Thank you for having me, Peter.
No, it's a pleasure. Now look, before we talk about this issue, because it's very important and no one's really picking it up at the moment, can you tell me, and tell our viewers as well, a little bit about the European Conservative?
Happily. So we're a continental magazine, written always in English, aimed at educated Europeans from around the continent,
Yeah.
but also around the world. We have lots of American readers, lots of English readers too. And our interests are primarily academic, theoretical, intellectual, and we try to capture and illuminate the many varieties of conservative thought, conservative tradition that have existed and which do exist around the continent and in England. And so in terms of our editorial mission, you know, that can mean everything from topical, polemical opinion pieces,
Yes.
to deeper dives into matters of philosophy, culture, history, and indeed the arts. So,
Well,
yes.
I mean, looking at it, it's a beautifully produced magazine.
Thank you.
But it is basically, as you say, academic and nuanced and philosophical.
Of course, yes.
And how long has it been going?
My understanding is that in this current form, in this very aesthetically slick form, we've only gone through maybe 5 or 6 issues,
Right.
but its genesis, in terms of, it began as a newsletter circulated among European intellectuals in around 2006, a sort of internal newsletter on precisely the matters that I've just named. And Sir Roger Scruton was in fact involved in that, in that genesis, and it's since grown into this publication, which, as you say, you like and admire.
Harrison, this is distributed in Britain
Yes.
by W.H. Smith, right? Some of their stores. That's where the problems begin. So can you just tell us, first of all, what initially gave rise to this problem of censorship?
In the UK case? Well, my understanding is that we have had a commercial relationship with W.H. Smith for around 6 months, and they have been stocking us very generously in their UK stores.
Yeah.
And there was no problem, because if you go to W.H. Smith, you can find everything from Time, The Spectator, and The Critic on the right of politics to the Jacobin and the New Statesman and the Guardian Weekly, that sort of thing. And we joined that, we joined that sort of cornucopia that W.H. Smith is usually very good at representing in its stores. The problem arose when two, I won't name them, but 2 reasonably high-profile British individuals from the UK entertainment blob, fairly influential in the arts world, made a point on their public Instagram accounts of complaining about some of the content that we'd been peddling in this magazine, and effectively trying to incite a social media pressure campaign against W.H. Smith to cancel us and to take us away from their stores. Indeed, yes. And alas, they were successful.
Well, can we, before we go on to that,
Of course,
so we'll have to say, so basically this guy or these guys saw the magazine in the store, right?
Yes.
And sort of started basically this campaign. What were the nature, let's have a look and see what it was they were objecting to.
Of course.
And got it here, there we go.
Yes.
This here, it is basically, can you explain what it was that actually they complained about to Smith?
Right, so there were 3 things that they complained about. The first thing they complained about, which can be described verbally, was the sheer fact that we had the gall to publish an interview conducted by a Portuguese philosopher with Viktor Orban.
With Viktor Orban.
With Viktor Orban, and so that we had a sort of 2-page spread, which I edited, in fact, basically representing a dialogue that had occurred between this Portuguese philosopher and Viktor Orban. And so that was the first.
So it was the mere fact that he was even interviewed.
The sheer fact that he was interviewed.
There was nothing he particularly said.
Nothing. I doubt they even got as far as reading it.
Right.
They went on their Instagram profile. All they did was highlight the fact that interview with Viktor Orban featured. So that was the first point of issue. The second point can be read just there, so maybe you can read that for our audience. The sheer fact that we had in our sort of anonymous, not anonymous, but in our editorial, we have an etc. page, which is just a series of reflections which are not ascribed to any author, but published at the beginning of the magazine to give people a flavour of what's topical. That
yes, it's like a diary article, isn't it?
Like a diary article, yes.
Yes, and it's about Pride Month.
Indeed.
So basically, in case anyone hadn't noticed, it says here, hard to imagine, June was Pride Month, an opportunity to publicly parade some of the more dissolute aspects of human experience.
Absolutely.
So that is what they basically objected to.
They objected to the use of the word dissolute to describe what pride seems to have become in the Western world. Yes.
So we're talking about when most people see like things like fetishes on display and all of that kind of thing.
These are my kinks and I'm going to shout about them.
Yeah, right. And then under it there is this cartoon which says here, it's a woman with her son saying, how was school? And then he's sort of vomiting out loads of rainbow colours.
Indeed,
right?
And produced by the fiercely independent cartoonist, very well known in Britain, who goes by the name of Bob.
Bob the cartoonist?
Bob the cartoonist, yes.
Oh, I see, right, okay. Now, so basically, so they complained about this, and so three things. What happened? What happened? What was the response of W.H. Smith?
So one of the problems is that W.H. Smith have not actually communicated with us. They didn't notify us of their decision to cancel us effectively from their UK stores. However, they did send a private email to these two individuals who complained, saying that they had decided to withdraw the magazine from sale. And the reason we know about this is because those two individuals, they screenshot the email in which they were notified of our cancellation and posted that to their Twitter and sort of celebrated what they clearly regarded as a successful censorship campaign.
Right.
And it might be worth pointing out as well that they wheeled out all of the usual platitudes to try and disgrace us, accusing us of
such as what? Yes.
They accused us in the initial Instagram post of being guilty of fascism, hate-filled propaganda, homophobia. They even compared us rather unsubtly to Joseph Goebbels in terms of the sort of propaganda we're pushing to try and demonize gay people, trying to incite pogroms and hatred against people in the gay community, which is of course untrue.
Yeah. So basically, they did all of this, and so they had a so basically, nothing has happened. So this has now been withdrawn from the shelves, right? And that's it.
Yes.
So what are you going to try and do about it?
Well, part of the problem, I think, is that Smith's clearly calculate. Given that we're a fairly small publication for the moment, we obviously have ambitions to grow bigger and spread our wings. But for the moment, we remain a fairly small publication. We're not the Spectator. We're not the Critic. We're not the Wall Street Journal. I think what happened is that Smith's effectively calculated that it would cause them more of a headache to continue selling the publication and having to endure the ire of intolerant, fanatical left-wing activists of the sort that complained. It would be more of a headache to endure that than it would be just to quietly withdraw us from shelves and not notify us about it. So our mission now is to convince them that they were wrong in thinking that we would take this censorship lightly and that we wouldn't punch back and do our best to fight this very flagrant act of censorship on the part of a monopoly like W.H. Smith.
Well, the point with someone like Smith, I mean, I would say, I feel that basically with many of these companies now, they run frightened and shy of any form of controversy, even with not even understanding it. All they need to hear are certain words and then bang, they're gone. But I think that people could probably do, tell me if I'm wrong, tell if you agree, what these people who complained did, and that is get on to W.H. Smith, couldn't it? And basically, Twitter them, email them, whatever, send messages or whatever, and saying how this is an appalling act of censorship. It doesn't even matter whether you agree or not.
No,
this
indeed.
is the point with what is being said.
Yes.
This is extraordinary, isn't it?
I certainly wouldn't dissuade W.H. Smith customers from doing that. I think part of the problem when these sort of cultural skirmishes happen is that a very noisy and fanatical minority flex their muscles in a way which enables them to give off the illusion that they are much more, that they're much bigger than they in fact are. And as long as the silent majority stays silent, that strategy will be successful. But in this case, I hope people don't stay silent. I hope people do voice their concerns.
Exactly. Well, that is exactly what they should be doing. On Twitter, what is the handle for the new European Conservative?
Gosh, I could get in trouble. I believe it is Eurocon official.
Right.
But just in case I'm wrong, you should type
in
the European Conservative into the search bar, and you'll find us.
Well, look, thank you very much, Harrison, for that. You've been writing for them how long now?
I've been writing full time since February, but I freelanced for them a bit before. But they clearly liked my stuff, so they were kind enough to take me on as a full-time writer.
Okay. Well, look, it's the European Conservative, and it's a bad case of censorship. W.H. Smith's here. And so if you want to use social media, or whatever, to maybe register your complaint yourself about this, then please do. This sort of thing can't be allowed basically to happen, where a few people can just simply decide the fate or otherwise of a magazine that they just disagree with. And in fact, as I say, it's not really, is it, about whether or not you even agree with what's written. I mean, that's the whole point of free speech,
It's the whole point that free speech is not just one value among many. It is the value that enables us to improve our other values, because it's only by testing ideas that we can assess their truth or otherwise. And so if people aren't free to hear our form of social conservatism, then how can they decide what they think about it? And I think that instead of indulging fanatics, as W.H. Smith appeared to have done, they should serve the more intelligent public at large, and the public, of course, in this country, in an advanced democracy like ours, they tend to be curious, and they want open, robust discussions on social and moral issues, and they should be allowed to have them. And to the extent that powerful monopolies deny them that, we become a poorer country.
Yeah. Well said. Thanks so much, Harrison.
Thank you, Peter.
That's it. So you got the information, and we shall see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye.